happened? Where'd the music go?
Hi guys!
That was a quick cut.
We are back today, and it is audience engagement day, so it is questions from the audience.
Wait a minute. Audience engagement day. That sounds too official. It's live Q&A. There.
We didn't like my. Okay.
No, I love it, but it's just too official.
Audience engagement day.
We're not.
And
we're not official.
So, guys, ask us questions. I'm actually allowed to read the chat today. Curtis was getting mad at me last week about me getting
not
distracted.
Getting mad at you. Stop. Oh, she's getting mad at me. Ooh.
I'm not getting mad.
I picked on her before we went on air. I can't say about what, but I got
favorite Stargate 1 SG1 episode is, I cannot remember the name of it, but it's when they get stuck in the time loop and Colonel Neil is getting ready to shoot a golf ball through the Stargate, and General Hammond yells, "Colonel Neil, what do you think you're doing?" And he goes, "In the middle of my backswing." That's my favorite Stargate SG1 episode, just in case you needed to know.
You didn't ask me mine.
Do you know what we're talking about?
Not a fucking clue. I have never watched even a single episode. What is it on? Is it on like Prime or?
It's on Prime.
Maybe I'll look at it. Maybe.
Well, we'll watch the first 8 seasons, and then we'll switch to the 5 seasons of Atlantis, and then if we're... We did watch the first episode, but we pre-watched it before, and we knew exactly when to pause it and fast forward so that they don't see that particular scene when Sharae is...
Reference for those of us that don't know.
There is a nude scene when the alien goes inside.
Why is that a problem?
Because my children are not old enough to... I'm not ready to answer those questions.
What are those two bumpy things?
Well, no. Okay, the reason I'm not able to ask that question is because my child once walked in on me, and made it about why I don't have them.
What? Why you don't have them?
Why I don't? Because I have a...
I'm not touching this. Nope, I'm out. I'm out.
My kid is savage, let's put it that way. I was both very, very proud of him.
Nope, we're not going there. Nope. Moving on. So, even the producer's backing me on this. Okay.
But yes, that we did watch the first episode, and we have watched a couple episodes since, and now my eldest knows what Jaffa Cree means, and if I want to yell stop, and I yell that, he stops.
Turn up my volume a little bit. I have no reference for any of it, so.
Well, we're teaching my children how to be good little nerdlets.
Then you got to get them to Star Trek.
We're working
Star
on
Trek
it.
or Star Wars? Which one?
They've watched plenty of Star Wars.
Yeah, but which one's your choice? Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Wars.
Trek. You're wrong. I'm right.
Trek.
Stargate, obviously, is...
You haven't used that little background in a while.
No, I haven't. I should probably do that.
Alien breastfeeding. What the hell is Mark talking about?
I don't know.
What, she have like 4 of them? Is that what was going on?
No.
Moving on.
So,
yeah, ask questions, guys. Bring up topics. It's on you today. We haven't done done something like this in a long time, so it's funny because I had it in the back of my mind. Lindsay said, "Why don't we do this?" And I went, "Okay." So, showed my son the movie The Master of Disguise last night. Okay. Your child will likely never be old enough to view that. I got to go watch the scene now.
I am not ignorant to the fact of what teenage boys get up.
How old's your oldest?
11. Oh, we will be skipping SGU because as far as I'm concerned, SGU doesn't exist. They ended Atlantis so they could give us that crap. I haven't recovered yet.
I could see this show. I'm just going to sit here and just look pretty. Oh, we got a question. The number of battered men shelters.
Two.
Dose.
There are two, and there's one in Alabama, correctly, or
Batesville, Arkansas.
Arkansas, and then there's one outside Dallas, Texas. That's it for the
So
entire
there is a woman working on one in Washington State. I'm not sure exactly where. Um, and I reached out to her. God, last spring. I never heard back from her. So I was going to have her come on my podcast to talk about it. I don't know where she went with it, but she was trying hard from what I knew. Behind the scenes, I had heard some things. To my knowledge, nothing has happened, but that doesn't mean that won't be. So hopefully she succeeds. That's one of the things that when we go to DC that I'm going to be talking about with when we're walking around in Congress is VAMA, Violence Against Men Act. Um, Not that it's going to go anywhere now because we're all shut down, but we need to have that act passed. So, any more commentary on that? Let us know, guys. That's a great topic. We haven't covered that in a long time.
We haven't in
really
a long time
done DV in a while.
This
James,
person
go ahead.
says, "I think men have changed, but forever. I believe women have also changed too. Maybe this is why we're not dating, being friends anymore." Uh,
I couldn't
yeah,
agree more.
yeah,
Women have lost their freaking minds,
we really have. As a collective, we have absolutely gone off the deep end. We have
and men
lost
have
the
said,
plot.
"We're not playing anymore. See ya."
We have lost the plot. Mm-hmm.
Men have left the sandbox, and they won't be coming back anytime soon. That's going to be the problem, right? Is I was having this conversation with my wife of all people not too long ago because she made the mistake of watching one of my videos, and she goes, "Is that really true?" Because I was talking about how men have walked away. I'm like, "Oh dear, you have no idea." It is. Every time I put a video up like that, my comments just explode with guys saying, "I'm done, I'm done, I'm done." Which, yes, I know is not scientific, but when you have tens of thousands of people saying it over and over again, there's something there.
Well, ironically enough, like we take certain things as scientific evidence, like the surveys that the CDC does. We call that evidence, but all it is a cumulative number of anecdotes, personal anecdotes, with a government stamp of approval on it.
Yeah.
So I'm inclined to believe the tens of thousands who say we're done, we're done, we're done, we're done, because that's where we get a lot of our data from. It's just anecdotal evidence with a seal of approval on it.
Well, that's the thing. When you look at, so they always say it's science. Not really. Social science is not really based on hard data. And they'll say, well, we account for blah, 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 whatever it is. No, they don't. All right. You go and read the studies and look at it, how they phrase questions and stuff. There, most of the time, most of the studies in that genre, it's who's funding it. And when you look at, say, for domestic violence, who's funding that is the shelters through VAWA, right? So, of course, they're going to come back with the data. The people doing the surveys are going to come back with the data that's going to fit what they want to hear. They're not going to say, no, it's not that, it's this. And then they're going to get mad. So, when you look at social science, it's not science. It's not like you can, you know, I'm trying to think of a physics thing. It's not like that. There's nothing concrete. It's all anecdotal. They're asking questions and hoping they get the right answers. And people lie through their teeth all the time, especially men. They're not really lying. They're just not willing to admit they're getting the crap beat out of them. So they say, no, I'm fine. And that's why you have these surveys out there, and most of them are crap. Big one being Country just mentioned the male loneliness epidemic. That isn't even a science study. It was an opinion piece in Psychology Today based on anecdotal evidence that a guy collected by going on dating sites. Okay, how is his evidence better than mine? I would argue mine is better because I've got tens of thousands of people. He's got a couple hundred, right? So it's all largely supposition. It's not like, say, doing an experiment and, you know, it was green or blue or whatever. It just doesn't work that way.
Or someone is saying, perhaps a topic could address damage to boys and men when a mother is overprotective of her sons into their teenage years. Um, so honestly, most of the women that I see are overprotective of their sons have the reversal of an Oedipus complex. They have replaced their sons in many cases as the emotional spouse or a partner, and they're leaning on them to help them in as if they are an adult partner. And then, of course, they get very jealous if the partner finds a wife, and they're overprotective, not because they're actually overprotective. They're overprotective because they want to keep them, they want to control them, they want them to stay because they need them. They've either emasculated their actual husband, but in more cases than not, often it's a single mother, and her adult or older son has been parentified in many cases, and they it looks like overprotection, but once you start digging down deeper, like any girl that comes into his life and replaces the mother is an interloper that needs to die. And that is not normal. That shouldn't be how it goes. And yet we have almost, I would say, an epidemic of this, especially in places where we have single mothers who have sons. And
The squirrel left the
no,
cage.
no, it
I
never,
saw it coming too.
it
The eyes
never,
started blazing.
it never does. I don't know why women do. I mean, I know women do this, but I don't understand the logic behind it, because I look at my children, my two boys, and I can't imagine putting that kind of pressure on them. Like, okay, so you were with their father, and you either drove him away because you're a vindictive shrew, and then you turned your son into the type of man you desire, which is often not a good man because you yourself had no father, no blueprint.
Mhm.
And then, so you're turning your son into the type of man who women wouldn't want, or is wrong for women, because it's a whole bunch of women without fathers turning their sons into their husbands, and it's a vicious cycle, which is why fatherlessness is the problem that it is. A woman cannot give a son what he needs to become a man. We can try very, very hard, but even the best of us won't succeed.
Any more than a dad can give a daughter what he gets from, or she, well, both of them, son or daughter, get from the mother. It's two entirely different things. Warren Farrell's covered this extensively. I know he covered it in The Boy Crisis, but he's covered it in a couple other books. This belief that, well, not belief, this fact that, if the father leaves the house, the mother will tend to assign, usually to the oldest boy, but not always, assuming there is a boy in the house, the role that the husband or father used to be. They'll turn him into the father figure. They'll make him into the husband. It's exactly what you're talking about, Lindsay, right? And I remember, I think it was Warren, but I'm not sure. I remember talking to somebody about that, and they've seen it where it's like 6-year-old boys are putting that role, and the pressure that's put on them is unbearable. How do you expect a 6-year-old to do what say a 36-year-old can do? You can't. That's not realistic. And then they grow up that way, and they tend to feel like failures because they can't fulfill the actual role, nor could they, right? But they don't know that. So then they grow up. That's one side of it. Then the other side of it is the other thing you were talking about is they try and mold these boys into what they think is the perfect man, which is entirely based on what women want from a man, not what men want from inherently, right? You ask these mothers, what do men want? Well, they want, they want to make a ton of money. They want blah, 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 blah. No, they want peace is what they want. But no woman knows that, right? So they grow up this way and they're confused. They don't know how to reconcile what they're feeling inside with what mom has taught them they need to be. So they struggle with that, psychological issues, all this stuff. I mean, it will be interesting to see in 50 to 100 years when they look back at this era from the 1970s up till today and see what's gone on and how they've driven men and fathers out of the home and the effect it's had on boys. I think they're going to sit back and go, what the fuck were these people thinking? I really do, because the evidence is there and it's obvious to anyone who looks at it that it's there. And that's not even faulting the moms. They don't, like you said, they don't have the ability to teach boys how to be men. They only have the ability to teach boys to be what they think a man should be.
Well, there's two things that a comment on is one is they teach boys what to how to treat a woman, but not what to expect from one.
Very much so. Yes.
And then unfortunately, a lot of the boys that are raised as, the son husbands, they turn to some questionable ethical things because think about it. You're in a role where you're supposed to be the provider for the house, the man of the house, right? And you're a kid, but you don't have adult resources. So what are you going to do? You're going to turn to crime, or you're going to turn. It's very prominent in minority neighborhoods. Unfortunately, they turn to crime and gangs because that's the only way they can provide with limited resources of a child, while you're expected to have the provisional capabilities of a grown-ass man. And then their mothers and grandmothers look back and go, oh, where did we go wrong? You picked the wrong dude to have kids with, for starters, and you didn't marry him, and you kicked him out of the kid's life. Like, you don't have to stay with him. I would, of course, ideally, you would choose better partners. But if, barring that, let the man be a dad if he wants to be. You don't have to be together, but you made a child together. So you have to put you have to love the child more than you hate your ex, more than you want revenge against your ex. And there's so many women who just cannot do that. They cannot put, for lack of a better word, the greater good. They cannot put the self down for the greater good of their children. It's me, I. Which is always baffling to me because we always hear, what do we hear? Oh, a mother's love is selfless. Not in my experience. It's not, at least it hasn't been in the last 50 years. A mother's love is very self-centered.
A mother's love is for herself.
Is for herself.
Yeah.
And a mother's selflessness, in many cases, I think is very performative. They'll say they're selfless. Oh, look at what I'm doing for my children. Look at what I'm doing to do for my children. But it's all performative. They're doing it for clicks and likes and validation. If they weren't getting that, they wouldn't do it.
Well, I mean, you talk about the Black community, and I've covered this on my podcast a couple of years back with some people who had done a lot of research. So based, what they were saying, and I'm, recollecting it, but when they look at the Black community in the 60s, don't quote me on numbers, but like they were the tightest family unit, right? I'll put it that way. Mom, dad, kids were all in the same house. Grandparents were, all that stuff. Very tight. And then that all broke apart as a result of, some argue civil rights, some argue no fault divorce, all that stuff. Whatever the cause, we're not worried about that right now. But the results of it is, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but the largest proportion of fatherlessness is in the Black community. And boys will seek out male leadership. It's inherent in boys. And if they can't go to a father or even an uncle or someone within the family to fulfill that role, they will seek it elsewhere. And unfortunately, in the Black community, it's gangs, right?
It's the same as true in the Hispanic community. I live in a predominantly Hispanic area, and you see a lot of, for lack of a better word, matriarchies within the home. You see the grandmother and the aunts.
That's
and
natural
the mother.
Within the Hispanic community.
That is true.
Yeah, very much so. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think it's a great thing, actually.
But in many cases, there are a lack of there are no corresponding uncles or grandfathers
And
or
that's,
anything
yeah,
like that, and that's the problem. And it's the same thing here. They'll turn to the drug cartels, or they'll turn to, the gangs,
hmm,
because they don't have anything else to look for. And it used to be that occasionally they might get lucky and have a particularly good male teacher. But even then, most teachers today in school, it's like 80% women. Um,
it's last number I saw was 26% of teachers are male.
I mean, I had
And going down every year, by the way.
I had a few male teachers in middle and high school, but very few. And now looking around at my son, my eldest in middle school, he has one male teacher, and I have yet to see any male teachers in my youngest's elementary school.
Yeah, I mean, when I went to elementary school, I don't remember a single male teacher. No, I certainly never had one. But there were only two classes in each grade at the school I went to, and I knew the teachers. There were male administrators though, and gym coaches and that kind of thing. So at least there was something. Now, I think it's predominantly what you're saying, Lindsay, is that it's many schools are all female teachers and administrators. And again, it's I'm not knocking that in the sense that if they can do the job, that's fine, but they cannot do fulfill the role of a male mentor, if you will, right? They
Hmm.
just can't. It's any more than I can fulfill one being a mentor for a girl, right? No, I raised three boys, three girls. I had the benefit of having my second wife was terrific with the kids, right? And she taught them from her side, and I taught them from my side, and they got the best of both worlds. Are they a little screwed up here and there? Sure. But generally speaking, they came out fine, right? And I strongly believe that that's a result of, and I give her all the credit, to be honest with you, because they weren't her kids. Four of them were my kids with my first wife. But she took that role on willingly and made it something, right? So they got the benefit of both of us. And now at their most of them are in their 30s. I got one that's still in her late 20s. We're seeing the benefits, of having that. And if it had been just me raising them, I will be the first to tell you, there's no way I could have taught them what she did. I just couldn't have. I don't come from that side any more than she could the other way. So I think there's a lot to that, and unfortunately, politicians don't see that. They're starting to. They're really starting to because they're in full blown panic right now. But I think society, as in general, seems to that the heroic single mother can do it all, and every father's a deadbeat. Right? That was drilled into our heads for decades. That stereotype exists, and unfortunately, when you have stereotypes, people tend to start fulfilling them, and that's what we're seeing in society as a whole.
Well, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, but I have long said that there's a difference between forced out and walked out. And most dads were forced out, not walked out. Now there are some deadbeats, obviously, and trust me, I hate them almost as is more than anyone else,
I,
because they're the ones who get upheld. Like all dads are like that. No, not all dads are deadbeats. Most dads want to be in their children's lives. There's just a cumulative number of reasons why they're not. Usually because the family court benefits from keeping parents separate, making them hate each other, and then there's also a government factor too, that women have been conditioned and incentivized to marry the government instead of the man that they had children with, um, over and over and over again, and
Yes,
all those factors build up
you're right on the
together.
money.
All those
Statistically, it's between 10 and 15%. So yes, you're absolutely right on the money. We find that in family court, somewhere between 10 15% in those cases, those are the deadbeat dads in those cases. That's not representative of the majority though. So, and those 10 to 15% are almost 99.99999 99% the product of a single mother household.
So it's a secular problem.
It
Single mother
is.
household produce men who will leave
Yes.
their own
But
families.
yeah, and I mean, I hate the word simp, but if you look at them, and I've started doing some studies on that. Like the numbers are ridiculous. Like over 90% of the ones that I've interviewed, talked to, and all that at some length, raised by a single mother, and dad wasn't in the picture at all. Right. And they'll often say I see a lot of parental alienation evidence. Well, he didn't want me. He wants nothing to do with me. And I'm like, kids don't say the things that these guys are saying to me. Right. And these are private conversations that I'm having with them at length. These are not 2-minute conversations. These are half hours sometimes. And, looking at that and understanding that they grew up with a mom, they had no male role model. Mom taught them that the best way to find a woman was to give her everything she wants, spend all your money on her, blah, 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 because that's what mom wants. And then they become, quote unquote, using the stereotype, simps. That's why I don't hold it against them for the most part. Because they don't know better. They've never had a male role model to say, no, dude, you're not going to go blow your paycheck on her because you don't need to. If she really is a valuable woman, she'll be fine getting a cup of coffee. Right.
Well, I mean, doesn't that come back to the role of fatherlessness? No, because mothers are more likely to just indulge their children because of their
100%.
feelings, while fathers will take the more strict role and say, no, you don't need that.
Yep. And Warren's covered that. If you want to read a really good book about what we're talking about, The Boy Crisis by Warren Farrell, he's talked about that specifically. The antidote he used was mom. I'm paraphrasing a lot of it, but basically mom will tell the kid to go to bed. And then 10 minutes later, she'll go tell him again. 10 minutes later, she'll tell him again, a little more threatening. Now, come on, Johnny, you got to go to bed. You knew. And the kid will be up for 2 hours, whereas dad will go in and go, get your ass in bed, turn the lights off, and I better not hear a sound on the first try, right? So it sets boundaries with the children. I think, to your point, Lindsay, that a lot of what we're seeing with the younger generations, because I'm a boomer, I know it's a bad word now. Too bad we have all the money. Oh, well. The absurdity of that whole claim, by the way, is a whole other show. But anyway, that's why you're seeing that everybody wants a participation trophy. They've never learned the hard knocks of life, right? I mean, when I played in sports, there was a winner and a loser. And sometimes we got creamed. Sometimes we did the creaming. We'd beat teams 15-0. Other teams would beat us 15-0. Now they got things like 10-run rules, and we're not going to count the runs. Why? Well, we don't want anybody to feel bad. Okay, what's going to happen when they're 25 and their boss goes, I need this by now, and if you don't have it done, you're fired. Oh, right. Mom's going to come in and want to meet with me, the CTO, because her son got fired because he wasn't doing his job, and we need to have a discussion about it. No, Mom, get your fucking ass out of my office.
I have heard unfortunate stories about mothers coming into. We had
I had it happen 13 years ago. I am not kidding you.
Oh my!
And it wasn't even me that fired him. It was the manager of the department that fired him. I was the CTO. I need to meet with you. Well, she was telling my secretary, and I'm like, who is this woman? She's in my office. I was like, who is this woman? Well, she's so-and-so's mother. I'm like, why is she here? And then she's like, well, we need to have a discussion about why blah, blah, blah was fired. Blah, blah. No, we don't. Because he was fired because he wasn't doing the job. It's that simple. Well, he's really upset. Too fucking bad. I don't care.
Get over it.
Do the fucking job or get out. And I've talked about often with my kids, there were consequences if they didn't do their chores. And it wasn't just one of them. All 6 of them paid the price. I'd cut the Wi-Fi like so often it wasn't, but I was still on it, right? Stuff like that. And that's missing. And a lot of that's the role that dads primarily play in most families. Not all, there's exceptions. I know that. But I know in your family, your husband, I mean, not that you're not tough, but your husband's the one that ultimately lays down the
Well,
law.
I think we've heard Eric yell at the children a couple times on air. Of course,
Try not to give his
there's
name.
there's that one time I didn't mute myself and you all heard me go mom
I
on.
loved it. I loved it. That was like one of my favorite of all time, of all the time. For the 3 years we've been doing this show, I love that one the most. But you're more of a nurturer, and that's a good thing, right? Um, and that's what women in general do. They're more nurturing. Fathers, men are more lecturing, to be honest with you, right? And that doesn't mean that's not out of love. It absolutely is. It's 100% out of love, but we're the ones that will set the boundaries. And I see it with my wife now. We don't even have kids together. And she gets pissed at me. No, we're not doing that. Why? Because they're 32 years old. They can do it themselves. But she wants to nurture them. That's a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. But I'm the one that ultimately has to lay down the law. And I hate it, but I do it.
So someone said, my parents believed in children earning their keep. So I don't necessarily
Damn
disagree.
straight.
I agree with this. So my job as a mother is to run out of jobs. I do my children's laundry until they can do it themselves.
6 years old.
We're still struggling with putting laundry away. I clean their bathroom until they can do it themselves. Now, at some point, I will do it if my house is an absolute disaster. But then you owe me. I make them pay me to have done.
Do you give the boys an allowance?
Yes, and they don't get their allowance if they don't do their chores.
There you go. Yep,
They'll also lose electronics. We won't turn the Wi-Fi off, but I have stolen power cords, so I'll unplug their TVs. And they're like, it won't turn on. I'm like, yes, because I have the power cord. Yep. Or I'll steal their charging cables and watch the fear in their eyes as their battery gets less and less and less and less until it gets all the way down. They're like, okay, I want to save the 10%, so I might as well do my laundry now. I'm like, oh, might as well. Thank you very much. Do that.
Hey, you got nothing better to do.
Well, why do you get to be on the internet, Mom? Why do you get to play games? Because I'm Mom.
No, my response is because I pay for it.
Well, I said that once. Okay, so you know how I'm always bragging on my.
You can't say that.
No, but I'm getting there. So you know how I always brag about my husband and how he's a wonderful provider. He takes such good care of us. Well, the other day I said because I pay for it, and my youngest goes, "No, you don't. Dad does."
You have to give him on that one.
I had to give him credit.
You got to give him credit on that one.
You're right.
So, all right, we're about a half hour in. Do the little heart thing you do, Lindsay. Give us the like, give us the share. Keep the comments coming, guys. It's wide open on topics. If you have questions you want to ask, there's a topic I want to go to next that Renovadio, if I'm saying that right, brought up. But we're open topic. If you want to ask questions or you have a topic you want us to get a pontificate on, let us know. But yeah, do us a favor, give us the like, share this, and jump in the comments. Let us know where you're from. I love hearing where people are from. All right, so Renovadio, if I'm saying that right, was talking about Ireland. And how the government is basically pushing to make, I'm putting this all in a nutshell, women in control of all the universities, which
stupidest idea ever.
You're seeing that a lot in the U.S. too. They're not mandating it, but you're seeing more and more of them. And again, you're seeing that government is going to practice gender discrimination. Because that's overtly what they're doing, right? They're not saying we're going to put the best person into the job. We're going to put a female in just because she's female, right? And, you think about, like he mentioned, prohibited the hiring of any male as a CEO of any of our nation's 13 universities. So forget equality. They're not even saying, 7-6-6-7, whatever. No, it's going to be 13-0. And I would love to know the logic behind that, right? If they're all going to be filled by women, how do you justify that's not discrimination.
So that was the interesting thing he pointed out was he said that they're alleging, since it's 85-15 as teachers, that's the ratio for female to male. He's saying that all of the school that should be the same ratio. And I'm like, it's not the same job.
Well, not only is it not the same job, but again, let's make the argument the other way. All 13 should be male, and we should mandate that 35% of the female teachers should be fired and replaced by men.
Well, they're trying.
That would be equality.
They're trying to force equality, which I don't particularly like the idea of equality of outcomes. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to force equality of outcomes.
But that's not even equality of outcome. 13 to 0 is not equality. It is exclusivity.
But I mean, if I were told that if I worked hard on my degree and I applied and I got it because I'm thinking I'm the most qualified, and then I get told, oh, you got it because of a immutable trait that you have no control over. I was born with ovaries. That's why I got it. I'd be fucking pissed. That's just me.
Right. And if you've ever seen, okay, so let's talk about engineers that are in a minority group, and they've been hired or they've been accepted into college because they're part of a minority group, and then they go to work for a big corporation, right? And they're a damn talented engineer. But the problem is it comes with the stigma of, oh, you got in because you're a minority. And it's not based on your skills. You can be the best damn engineer, but it just suddenly comes with the territory because it's guilt by association because of a stereotype.
And then there's the exact opposite. Sometimes they are brought in on diversity and they have no business being here. So my husband, Mr. Squirrel, is in his civilian job. He trains pilots, loadmasters, and engineers to fly the C-5 Galaxies, a big ass plane, and they have guys come through. It's already a very, very difficult job. Flight engineer is a very, very difficult job. It has like a 60-40 success rate. Most people wash out, and it's only a select few people, like 200 people in the entire United States Air Force can do his job. And he is good enough at it that he instructs both on the military side and the civilian side. And they have people come through that got flagged for the engineer position that clearly do not have the aptitude. And while normally the washout rate is like easy, if you can't do the work, you don't get to stay. These guys get every chance. And they're like, oh, well, you're not doing well, so we're going to wash you back to another class. Oh, you're still not doing well, we're going to wash you back to another class. You're going to get another chance and another chance. Meanwhile, the other, non-minority students, 3 strikes, you're out. You have to go pick a different career. And what is that telling them? I've always called it the soft bigotry of low expectations. You're basically being, given a step ladder saying you are too stupid to do it on your own because of your sex, the color of your skin, your religion, whatever. So we're going to help you because you can't possibly do it on your own. And I'm like, that's patronizing and condescending as hell. And then you have people put in a position that they have no business being in because of some immutable trait. Can you imagine saying you got in because you have blue eyes? Because you have about as much control over your eye color as you do your biological sex. So, it baffles me that so many women think that's a good thing now. We're only the top percentage, whatever, because we took the men out of the competition. If it's a mental competition on who is more mentally competent, it's like in the place of teachers and university. If you're removing half of the people that also have cognitive abilities, then we have won Jack Diddley squat.
Well, so, yeah,
so Jan Elliott, an educator from here in Iowa, in 1968 did an experiment in her classroom called Blue Eye, Brown Eye. And they separated the groups based on their eye color, and they allowed the feeling of basically going, hey, the blue-eyed kids for a day are in control of the brown-eyed kids. And then the next day, they did brown-eyed kids were in control of the blue-eyed kids. And that is how she showed those kids what it was like to have like skin color and other forms of discrimination to really weigh in on and show these things. She was also very scrutinized publicly for it as well, because this was in 1968 in Iowa. So it was a cutting edge, revolutionary level thing here in the Midwest that she did. I thought it was pretty ingenious.
Sounds ingenious. I mean, that's basically what it is. It's an immutable trait over which you have absolutely no control, and therefore you should only be judged on the things you can control. How intelligent you are, how your aptitude, your ability to do the job. I mean, the same thing came around when freaking what's her name, Clinton was running and Kamala were running for office, and they're like, well, you're going to vote for her because you're female, right? Fuck no, I'm going to vote for them if they're competent, and neither of them are competent. I would vote for a competent woman, but I want her to be competent. I'm not voting on her reproductive cycle. I'm not voting on her because she looks like me. There's that Turkish proverb about the woods continuing to vote for the axe because his handle was made of wood and therefore he was one of them. It's stupid. And that's basically what we have going on with a lot of feminist circles now, is they're trying to hold women up as the best, but we're only the best because we have removed men from society. We've removed fathers from homes. We've removed male teachers from the school systems. Apparently we've removed male university heads in Ireland. That's not victory. That's superiority. That's tyranny. Someone else give me another topic. I'm off my soapbox now.
Well, I forgot what I was going to say, so we'll move on. There was another question that came in. It was country. Now I lost it. Sorry, I got distracted there for a second. The squirrel got running on me.
It's not just me. Okay.
No, it wasn't just you. Oh, Richard wanted to know who was the author of the book you mentioned. Somebody mentioned it's Warren Farrell, The Boy Crisis. Terrific book. In fact, it's probably on the shelf behind me. I've interviewed Warren a couple times on my podcast. I consider him on the Mount Rushmore of men's issues. He's an amazing man. He's a amazing human being. He's one of the nicest people you will ever meet. And I highly, highly recommend that book. I have pulled from it many times for my videos. It's, as far as dealing with issues with boys, it's probably the best book I've ever read on that. I don't get paid to say any of those, by the way. And I'm not saying it because I consider him a friend, but it's, when you read that book, it will blow your mind, because a lot of what he says in the book, and he even says this, has been known for decades, 50 years of it. And yet nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to deal with it. So, all right, I found the question I was looking for while I was stalling there. Country asks, I have a question for you two. We hear all of these ridiculous bare minimum posts from women all the time. What do you two think the better minimum, I like the way you put that, actually should be? Lindsay first.
In a relationship, the better minimum should be relationship before self, and what?
You're stealing mine. Go ahead.
Relationship before self. The relationship is the prize. The two individual people are not the prize. It is the life you build together that is the prize, and you have to be willing to put that priority above yourself. You have to, and the biggest one is reciprocity. So whatever the other person is putting out, you have to be willing and able to meet them, if not even supersede them. I always try and give my husband back more than he gives me. And then he tries to do the same. So we're trying to outdo each other constantly because we love each other. We want the other person to have the best life possible, the most comfortable life possible. I'm willing to suffer discomfort if my husband, who works his ass off for us, gets to come home and do nothing, or relax. Actually, I am not, in fact, offended if my husband sits down and watches TV or plays video games for hours. I want him to be able to do that. And if that means that I have to do a little bit more housework during the day so that he doesn't have to, or take over like the yard work when it's particularly hot outside, I can do that. And then I can go jump in the pool afterwards. You have to care about someone else more than you care about yourself. Not to a self-detrimental level, but you have to be willing to put their needs at least on par with your own. And so many women especially cannot do that. They always want to come out ahead.
I'll sum it up with a Star Trek reference. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one. Paraphrasing, right? It really is that simple. And you just hit the exact point I was going to make. If you're so focused on yourself and only yourself, which is the way most women are these days, they're even telling us that that's what they want to be in these videos, right? You're never going to have a happy, healthy relationship. It's never going to happen. When I see these women making these flex videos, and I use them all the time in my videos, right? It's one of the things I'm trying to illustrate is just how absurd that belief is, right? If you are going to say that everything your spouse, boyfriend, guy you're dating, whatever label you want to stick on him, is only doing the bare minimum, and you're going to get offended when anybody says to you, well, what are you doing? Well, I bring this. This ain't worth a dollar store reject bin, okay? For most of you. And that's why you're seeing so many relationships break up. Because it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. These girls, we talk about how the mothers teach the boys. The mothers are teaching the girls to be entitled.
Well, so
you're supposed to have the perfect marriage from day one, and it should never be anything but that. It's an impossibility.
I said that the mothers are teaching their sons how to treat women, but not what to expect from them. In the same vein, they're teaching their daughters what to expect from men, but not how to treat them. They have all these expectations, but no idea how to actually treat them like fucking humans.
Well, they're teaching the girls that the men shouldn't even be allowed to have expectations. That's what you're hearing all the time in these videos.
Well, yeah, true.
All the time, right?
Like, God forbid the man have a preference on anything.
I mean,
or an opinion.
I should have to bring something to the table. Hello, this ain't worth diddly squat. And men don't care about this all that much. I mean, it's nice to look at, sure, but as a human being, as a spouse, as a girlfriend, that don't mean diddly squat. Guys will take a 2 with a nice personality that's going to care for them over a 10 who's a raging you-know-what all the time. And most of them are, by the way.
I mean, we had this conversation with the croissant girl. This was several years ago, which in internet time is practically ancient. But they're like, why would men go for, Wonder Bread when they can have a croissant? And the answer almost ambiguously was that, well, a croissant is pretty to look at, but it's mostly full of air. You eat it, you'll be hungry 2 hours later. Whereas Wonder Bread can be garlic bread. It can be a hamburger bun. It can be, it's very, very versatile. It may not be much to look at, but, it carries a weight that a croissant can't. And the analogy was dead accurate. A man would rather take a less attractive woman who's willing to slog through the mud for them than the woman who's, gorgeous, but she's waiting at the end and didn't do any of the hard work. Now, of course, there's some men out there that will do that, but those are like the top 1% of men.
Well, that's the one the women want, though.
And that's the one the women want, but they're not going to take the bottom, 80% of women. They're barely going to take the bottom 99% of women because they can just pick and choose. Men, by and large, your average man is looking for a partner, not a trophy wife. In fact, I would argue a partner is the trophy wife in most men's point of view, not
100%.
women's point of view.
100%.
But someone who's willing to do without or be uncomfortable for a little bit in order to have a big payoff further, life together, happy life together, memories together. I'd rather go on a trip with my husband and spend time with him, actually spend time with him, than get my nails done or my hair done all the time. It's not worth it to me because I can't take this with me. I can't take these with me. I can take the memories I have of him, and I'm not going to have him forever. Statistically speaking, he'll pass before I do. And I'd rather have years and years and years and years of worth of memories with him than have things. And when I tell women this, I get the deer in the headlight looks, like no one ever told them that. And it's much like
that's the problem right there.
And that's, you were talking about that with the simps.
Same
but they've never been taught that. In many cases, we have generations of women who have never been told what love really, really looks like. They have the Disney fairy tale version of what romance is supposed to be. They view their wedding as the marriage as the finish line rather than the milestone that it is. They've been told that marriage is supposed to be easy, that love is all you need. That is bullshit. It is not all you need. You need determination and grit and perseverance and some humility. That's a big one women don't have, is humility. And
preach it, sister, preach it.
Well, okay, so I always get accused of I don't know what I'm talking about, right? Like, you don't know. And I was like, bitch, I've been married for 17 years. I got married at 19 to my only boyfriend. I think I know what I'm talking about because I've managed to keep the same man happy for over 20 years. That's more than you can say for you because you can't keep a goldfish happy for 10 minutes. And that's another thing. Women look for advice, relationship advice, in the worst possible spot. You're looking for long-term relationship advice, but you're looking at social media, women who can't keep, a guy, or they rotate a guy faster, through more men than freaking Taylor Swift. And then
he's engaged now.
Until she actually says, I do not believe. And even then, the number of times Hollywood actors get divorced and remarried. I mean, how many husbands did Elizabeth Taylor have?
What was it? Keith Urban and
Nicole Kidman.
Nicole Kidman just announced their split.
She's on how many boys now? Tom Cruise.
No.
I mean, she's a beautiful woman. Or she was, right?
But
the wall came for her too.
One thing I will say about the Disney romance, the Disney fairy tale that everyone's always getting, I am actually upset at Disney, not for raising my expectations on men. My dad gave me a clear for that. No, what I am angry is, where are the little fucking animals that come clean my house? I was told that if I would sing, squirrels would show up at my door and birds would do my laundry.
I could see you in the little outfit. You need 7 dwarfs to come to your house.
Now all I hear now in my head is Cinderella, 9 days, Cinderella.
I mean, it's an interesting thing that this whole scenario is mostly it's women flexing, right? And what I find interesting about it, and actually the video I have coming out, I think tomorrow, kind of alludes to this, is that this whole expectation thing that's driving through social media, teaching women, this is what, if it's not perfect 24/7, 365 for 70 years, it's a bad marriage. And then they're going to end up alone, right? Because they're going to say, well, I can get Chad or Tyrone or Rico or, or I'm going to find, Virgin River, which I hate that show with every fiber of my being, but my wife loves it because it's a fairy tale, right? Because I always joke with her. I go, yeah, no man was involved in writing these scripts because men don't talk this way. They don't talk like the little pansies that they are on Virgin River, you know. But it creates this dynamic that is going to ensure that women will never be happy. That's where I'm going with it, right? Because they can have whatever expectations they want. Men can't meet them. No one can be perfect, right? So knowing that men are going to fail, that means that by definition, every relationship these women are in is going to fail eventually. And that's a recipe for disaster. And it's led us to exactly where we're at. And now men are like, F you. You want perfection? Go find it in another woman.
Well, to quote or paraphrase from Jordan Peterson, perfect is the enemy of good. And there is no such thing as perfect. If you're religious, there's only really one thing that is perfect, and he's not here anymore. So this idea, and you also you get what you give. So unless you yourself are perfect, unless you yourself are a paragon, what makes you think you deserve perfect? We're talking about the coffee dates, right? And I was like, well, I deserve more than a coffee date. How does he know that? He hasn't talked to you yet. You're gonna skip levels 1 through 9 and demand a level 10, dinner date. Well, how does he know you're worth that? Well, because he should just be able to look at me.
This.
No. And many, many times I've seen women, they're very attractive, and then they open their mouths, and I realize that I could catch more rain with a sieve than I could have a decent conversation with some of these women.
Because I'll drive that truck right down the road. Okay, it's not just their mouths that they open, then it's awful. Just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Go get off, Curtis. It's again, it goes back to, we talk about men's issues and the men's side of it, but when you look at it from the women's side of it, this is harming women, I would argue, more than men. Because men are like, F you, we'll just go enjoy life, right? And they're living their lives up. I mean, you're seeing it more and more, and men are like, I'm happy, right? There's no loneliness epidemic among men that are single. There is one among men that are married. That's a whole other conversation, right? But
so I can't.
Single men in general are very happy.
I cannot help but think that this is by design, because it's
It absolutely is.
It's at the point now that we're setting women up for failure.
It's feminism's way to control women.
Well, yes, I recognize that, which is basically feminism is just Marxism, but with gender instead of class. Yep. And you can control the masses by making them either dependent upon you or scared. So they're dependent upon you and they're scared, because that's where all of what the man bashing, you have to be afraid to leave your door because the big bad man is going to hurt you. And I was like, well, then never leave your house. And what good is that telling women to be terrified of every man they meet? Oh, I choose the bear because the men will, might hurt me. The bear will eat you.
Mm-hmm.
What's the man gonna do? Depending and I did a video on this when that first came out, and I've talked about it before. It's called risk assessment. Ladies, there is a big difference between going out to Walmart on a Sunday afternoon and seeing the men there, or going out to Walmart at 2:00 in the morning after the bars have closed in a sketchy part of town wearing a dress that is short enough to be a skirt or a shirt. Like, those are two entirely different scenarios. And I'm sorry, but if you do the second one, you're not asking for it, but you are culpable because you put yourself in that situation. Your personal safety is your responsibility, male or female. And if you're stupid enough to walk into the lion's cage wearing a stake around your neck, are you asking to be eaten? That's debatable.
I mean, like our downtown there's been a lot of problems down there, right? So I would not be out at 2 a.m. on my own, walking down, say, an alley, right? The risk, you talk about risk assessment, right? My fear is no different than a woman's. It's a legitimate fear at 2 a.m, right? So, but see, women don't see that. No, you wouldn't be afraid. Yeah, I would. I'd be on my toes all the time. Now, does that mean I wouldn't do it? No, but it means I'm going to be carrying protection with me. My head's going to be on a swivel. I am going to avoid putting myself in a situation where I may be at risk as much as possible. It's all risk assessment, right? Doesn't mean I live in fear 24/7 of being downtown. It's just, okay, at 2 in the morning, when everybody's drunk, there's a chance that you might have an issue, right? At 2 in the afternoon, when it's all government workers, the odds of you getting shot are slim and none, right? That's has nothing to do with gender. It has everything to do with looking at the situation. But women don't do that. Feminism has taught them to just assume that every man is bad, but don't assume every woman is.
Well, you know why women don't assume that? Because their fathers didn't teach them this thing called risk assessment, because it's typically what
Well, the
fathers
fathers
teach
weren't
their
there
daughters.
to teach them.
Yeah, situational awareness is something that dads
OPSEC.
usually
I
teach.
call it OPSEC, operational security.
And my father taught me, don't put yourself in that situation. That's what I was taught. Do not put yourself in that situation. And guess what? I haven't.
Well, it's like we're going to be in DC in about a month, right? And what's the first thing I said to you? You are not going anywhere without me or Curtis by your side. Once you get off the National Mall, it's just too dangerous. Does that mean it's any less dangerous for me? Absolutely not. It is just as dangerous for me, right? But I'm more situationally aware probably than you are. And I'm not saying that to slight you in any way, but I have training in this, right? I mean, I've thought about that. We're going to be walking around DC. I can't carry in DC.
Well, not only do you have more situational awareness than I am because you have more practice clock
I also have size.
size, but
Nobody.
there's also the fact that when push comes to shove, you are far more likely to be able to defend yourself against someone than I am. I know that. That is not knocking women.
It's just reality.
It's reality. I'm very strong for a woman, but that doesn't mean that I could fight off Dan. I could barely fight off my 11-year-old if he really starts to wail on me.
I would just bear hug you and pick you up off the ground
Exactly.
and watch you flail. It'd be hilarious.
Eric will my Mr. Squirrely will sometimes have he'll carry me piggyback, and then he'll look at the boys and go, "Watch this," and he leans forward, and I'm stuck on his back, and I can't get down because he's like 6 inches taller than I am, and I'm stuck like a freaking turtle on a post.
I should do that with my wife because I got a foot on her. Foot plus on her. But yeah, I mean, that's exactly what we're talking about, right? But women don't see it that way. Generally speaking, they're like, well, men aren't afraid to go down the street at 2 a.m.
Well, but statistically, men are more likely to be the victims of a violent
Exactly.
crime than women.
Yes.
I mean,
Well,
statistically,
some of that is because we do the assessment and sometimes we take the risks that women won't. So of course the numbers are going to be higher for men.
also, ironically speaking, society in general, men in general, even bad men in general, are statistically less likely to harm a woman or a child than they are another man.
Fact.
And so I am statistically safer at night. Now, does that mean that I go out at night in downtown in my city? No. I do walk around at night in my neighborhood, but then I live in Texas, so I carry. I'm actually more likely to be attacked by a wild hog than I am a man.
So you're
It's
not
Texas. Everyone carries.
So you're not going to date the hog instead? Forget the bear. You're going to go to the hog, right? I mean, yeah, wild boar is nothing to mess with.
A nice slab of bacon's what she's looking for.
They are delicious.
I prefer sausage.
But it speaks to where's the male role model in the family to teach the daughters this, right? To say, yes, there is a risk. You need to take an assessment. I've taught self-defense classes to women. And they come in there thinking I'm going to teach them how to beat up men. Right? And occasionally, not every class, but occasionally, I've had a woman attack me just for fun. Somebody I plant, or like I've had my wife try and do it. And she's on the ground in about a tenth of a second. She doesn't stand a chance against me. And that's why when I teach those classes, although it's been a while, when I taught them, it was all about situational awareness, right? Is don't put yourself in positions where you can be attacked. This is how men think. It's not hard. Sometimes you can't avoid it. Might be work related or something like that. But if you can, don't put yourself in those situations. Same thing I teach men, right? It's logic, but women rely on emotion, and they make assumptions that, well, you're not afraid to walk down the street at night. Yeah, I might not be terrified but I know there's a risk, right? You're terrified because you've been told you need to be terrified, not because the true risk exists. And that's the difference. It's feeding to women's emotions. If we make women afraid of men, they'll never go to men for protection. And boom, you split apart the sexes, which has been the goal all along. And it's where we're at right now.
Well, I mean, divide and conquer is the biggest thing. But like when I was taught, when my dad taught me self defense, I was taught how to get away, not overpower, because I'm never going to be able to overpower anyone, unless they're wheelchair bound, and even then, they might be able to just roll over my foot and hold me there. So my goal was never to beat up or conquer; it was always to get away. But more than anything, I was told my dad pulled out the only sports metaphor the man knows is the best defense is a good offense, and the best offense is, or was it reverse? I don't remember. I'm not a sports.
Defense is a good offense. Yes, that's correct.
Is don't put yourself in that situation. Don't put yourself in a situation where you can be taken advantage of by anyone, not just men. And for the most part, I don't. And then when I must put myself in a situation, I've had to go to a hospital in the middle of the night for when one of my children was sick and my husband wasn't around. But in many cases, my husband will wake himself up out of a dead sleep. He's running on 2 hours of sleep, but I need to go somewhere at night, and he will drive me, or he'll be on the side of the street away from me, or he'll ask me, "Don't go." And if my husband asks me or tells me, "Don't go," I listen to him. I don't pull the, "I don't need you to talk to me like that," because I can only guess that Mr. Squirrely, who has been trained by the military, he knows something that I don't, and I trust him. And I'm sorry, but the ladies out there that won't listen to their husbands or the men in their lives, even their fathers and brothers, it's like, do you not trust these men to try and they're looking out for you? They're not trying to control you. They're telling you that whatever you're about to do is going to put yourself in danger. And you would rather stick it to them and say, "Well, you can't tell me what to do." Technically, yes, but they're not doing it to control you. They're doing it to protect you. And you're just a vindictive, vile shrew who doesn't want to listen. Well, fine then. I don't want to say you deserve it, but I really also want to say that you kind of sort of
Well,
do.
it's funny because you reminded me of a situation a little over a year ago. We were downtown. It was me, my wife, and two of our clients, both women, and one had their spouse with them. And we were walking around as a group. And afterwards, she said to me, "How come you're always in the back?" Because I always trail the group. And she couldn't figure out why. She's like, "You're always behind everybody." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's deliberate. Because if I'm behind you, I can see someone coming from the front. I can see them coming from either side. And if someone's coming from the back, they got to get by me to get to you." Right. I mean, and when I explained it to her, she goes, "I never thought of that." And then she got mad at her husband because he never does that either. Right. But that's training. Right. If you're in a position like when I'm out with my wife, I don't walk next to her directly. Right. We're not side by side. I will usually be slightly behind her, right? Because then they have to get through me from behind to get to her, right? Like I have to teach her, you're going to carry your purse on the inside. If I'm on the left, your purse is on the left. If I'm on the right, it's on the right, so that I can protect her purse also. This is all just situational awareness. It's all it is. It's not even, you don't need training for this. It's just common sense. And if it was a group of women, I would say somebody needs to trail a little bit. Well, we can't talk that way. If you're talking, you're not paying attention, right? And somebody better be paying attention because somebody could come out of the left alley or something like that. The other thing I teach all the time, or used to, I haven't taught it in a while, with women go jogging and they have two earphones in, headphones in. That's just asking for it. And I don't do that. If I go for walks, I don't wear earbuds. I wear over the ear, but I always have one slightly off so I can hear someone coming from behind me. It's just common sense. But how many women do you know? They got their, iPods in or whatever they're called. What are the earbuds? And they're just jogging away. Well, you're never going to know. And I think that's why occasionally women do get attacked. It's not because they're women. It's because criminals will look for easiest prey. Just like in the wild, right? Lions take down the gazelle that's sick or old. They don't go for the top dog, the alpha gazelle. Same thing. Criminals will look, and if they see yes, I'm 6'1", 280, and I can, break most people in half. But it's the fact that I'm looking constantly. My head is always on a swivel. They don't like that. They want that person that's got their earbuds in, walking down the street, not paying attention anyway. It's that simple. And that has nothing to do with gender. Same thing in for a woman. That's when I taught that. And I've had women come back to me later and go, I started doing that, and boy, was it eye-opening to me. But nobody teaches them that.
Dan, you're right on the money. You know what we do when we're overseas going on convoys? What we found is they don't want to attack a really strong, really aggressive, really badass looking convoy. They don't, because you've got this huge show of force. You've got multiple weapons that can be visibly seen, and they're ready to go. People don't want to mess with something that looks really intimidating and like a big challenge to take down. You're 100% correct. They're looking for the weak link.
That's why I would teach the women, look, if you're in a situation that you can't avoid, because it does happen, right? Look the guy right in the eyes. Well, he's going to think I'm threatening him. No, you're letting him know that he's there, as opposed to, avoiding eye contact. And now you're that wounded gazelle, and that lion's coming to eat you. Right?
Don't look at me. Don't look at me.
But it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. When dad's not in the home, how's he going to teach his daughters that? Because men instinctively, most of them, not all, but most know this stuff, right? It's not necessarily training. A lot of men will just inherently do it without thinking about it. I do it without thinking about it, but I also have had training, right? But I see it all the time. I'm observing constantly. When we go to restaurants, my wife does not fight me on where I'm going to sit, right? Where a lot of women would, but she knows that I'm going to sit where I can see the door.
I always want to see the door too.
No. Because I can't cover you, right? Not only do I need to see the door, I need my right hand clear for a reason, okay? So you're not putting me on the left side of the table tucked into a corner. Not happening.
Typically speaking, when we go out, when we go with the children, Eric and I Mr. Squirrel and I will sit next to each other, and our children will be their back to the door so that we can see threats coming up to the middle. But I'll be in the inside.
Yep.
And
then he's got to get through
and
him
he's got to
be you. Yep.
And then we started taking the kids on walks, and I actually trail the group and have my husband next to the children, because if we're walking along the side of the road, he has to be able to get to them faster because he'd rather the car hit him than them.
Fine. Yeah, there's nothing, because you're portraying the role of observer in that situation.
Or when I walk anywhere with my children, I like them to have, like if I'm walking down anywhere where there's cars, I always put them on the inside and I stay on the outside. And they always ask me why. And I was like, because the car can see, I'm more visible to a car, and I would rather them hit me and I'd be able to push you aside than have them hit you, because you're shorter and they can't always see. And kids don't have situational awareness at all. And
most women don't either.
And most women don't either.
They're oblivious. I mean,
they're oblivious.
I walk down the street sometimes and I am like amazed at how oblivious they are. And that's not to say I don't see men that are too, by the way, but the majority of the time, the men are at least somewhat aware. The women, and I think about situations like we were just talking about being in a restaurant, right? I live not far. You probably saw it on the news where the guy was did shooting into a restaurant from a boat. That's local to me, right? And I was talking to my wife about that situation. She goes, and I said, that's why we need to carry all the time, right? He was getting shots off with a rifle. We have pistols, but at least I could have returned fire and at least kept his head down a little bit, right? It probably wouldn't have been accurate, but it's something.
Well, if
Those people
the
were sitting ducks.
if the predator will not fear the law, then they must be taught to fear their prey, which is why I tell women all the
Exactly.
time. I tell women all the time, the best deterrent. They're like, well, how do you? We just need to tell. What is it they always tell me? We just need to teach little boys not to rape. I said, or better yet, why don't you teach little girls not to be targets? Well, we shouldn't have to. Yes, the fuck you should, because the little boy doesn't need to be told not to do that. You know who does need to be told not to do that? The guy who doesn't give two shits. And even if you tell him don't do that, guess what? He's not going to care. That's why he is a rapist. Rapists don't care that it's wrong. They do it anyway.
Exactly.
So if you want to deter a rapist, make yourself not a target. Learn to carry. I don't like guns. Get a knife. Well, I don't like knives. Get pepper spray.
Get something.
Get something. Get a stiletto.
You got to go by what's legal in your area too, but
get a stiletto. Your heel can kill someone if you can get it off fast enough.
You can with that. Oh yeah.
And they always look at me like, well, we shouldn't have to. I said, yes, in an ideal, perfect world, you shouldn't have to. But violence has been a human problem since forever. I mean, depending on your
Adam and Eve.
Cain killed Abel with a rock.
Yeah.
So if you are never going to make all of the bad people go away. So the best thing you can do is to either not put yourself in that situation or not make yourself a victim with your own fucking stupidity.
Mm-hmm.
And also, women out there who do put themselves in situations, stop. Because not only are you putting yourself in the situation, you're also putting your husband or partner or whatever in the position where he's going to have to protect you. Most men would. So I will see women put themselves in bad positions or dangerous positions because they expect their partner, well, if anything goes wrong, he'll protect me.
My wife has been known to do that.
And I'm sorry, but like depending on the severity of it, I can see it in like milder cases, but if you're going to do something truly dangerous and you're expecting your man to just fall on his sword for you, then you don't really care about him at all. He's expendable to you. And at least in my line of view, my husband is not expendable to me. So I am not going to put him in a situation where he would feel obligated to defend me to like the death or anything.
And that's a key point, right? Is, like my wife will push buttons with some people knowing that I'm there because she feels safer to do that, but she will never put me in that position, right? Because she knows there's a boundary there, right? You can jerk the chain a little bit, but you're not going to, run straight into the dog. Okay. She's smart enough on that, but there's a lot of women that aren't. They'll just expect him to,
There's women in bars that will pick fights with people twice their size because they expect their partner to defend them, and then their partner ends up in the hospital.
Michael Yater said a while ago, ask a bouncer how likely a woman is to attack a guy, especially when drunk. I now, mind you, this is 40 years ago. I was a bouncer, but I saw it all the time, right? Specifically, women picking fights with people because their boyfriend was with them, right?
Oh, women are instantly more brave when there's either a group of women or there's a guy with them.
And I would go up to throw them out, and my boyfriend's here. I'll snap your boyfriend in half. Stop, okay? And the boyfriends were inevitably. I mean, there wasn't one time they were like, "I'm so sorry, I can't control her." Blah blah blah. They go out of their way to avoid conflict most of the time. Well, all the time in my situation. But again, it goes back to OPSEC, operational security. You got to have your head on a swivel and all that. And we're not teaching women that. We're teaching them to just be afraid of men all the time. Well, you instill that fear in them when the time comes that they legitimately need a man to protect them. Man, I'm gonna go. You're on your own.
Well, we're seeing it happen. We're seeing men leave in droves that won't save a woman.
Nope.
They won't interfere if they see something happening to her on a subway or on a jogging trail or anything, or drowning in the ocean,
You're better off
because
not right now.
they're better off not. And then women have, the audacity to say, "Where have all the good men gone? You murdered them. Where's chivalry gone? Feminism killed it." And then at the same time, I would never do this, but I sometimes want to. Like, if a woman puts herself in a bad situation, she's like, save me, help. I was like, you're a strong, independent woman, Karen. Tread water harder.
Change your own freaking tire.
Change your own freaking tire.
Not my job.
That's it, girl. You do that on the side of the road. Fuck the patriarchy. I did that once. They glared at me.
Yeah, I will no longer. I mean, I used to all the time. If I saw a woman pulled off the side of the road, I would stop and try and help her. Not now. No way. No way in hell will I do it. The risk is too high. God knows she could file a false allegation like that and she'll be believed. Nope, not doing it. I think about, like I just talked about that situation at the restaurant. I've eaten at that restaurant 5 or 6 times. I've been on that very deck where it happened. If that situation happened, I would get my wife, shield her, potentially return fire. Everybody else is on their own as far as I'm concerned, right? I would do what I could to protect myself and my wife. I'm not protecting anybody else. Whereas when I was younger, I'd have done everything I could to protect every woman there. But now, God knows what they'll claim. You got to be careful in those situations. So, like, you talk about like shootings in malls. One of the things that people think, well, I'm carrying a gun. I'll just go up and go around and protect people. Police don't know that you're not the shooter. So guess what? If you're strutting around carrying your gun, you are as likely to be killed by the police as the guy who's actually doing the shooting. Instead of finding a room, barricading yourself, and using that to protect. I mean, it's stupid shit that people just don't think about. And I think a lot of this is being lost because dads aren't in the home. To kind of circle back to where we were. If dads aren't in the home, they can't impart this wisdom, which is innate in a lot of us. And, all of human history, knowledge was passed down. We didn't have books or videotapes or computers until very recently in humankind. We didn't have that stuff. It was all orally passed down. And now, well, I'll just go watch a YouTube video on it. Okay. If someone's attacking you, sorry, can you just hold on? I know you're gonna arm me, but I just need 2 minutes so I can watch this YouTube video to how to protect myself. Yeah, that's gonna work, Karen. Come on. I mean, it's insanity, but that's how they think.
So
Boy, we really go off topic. That was a good topic.
Well, I mean, it's a catch-22. Simultaneously, women are sitting there saying, "I don't need no men," and then in a crisis, inevitably, it's, "Where have all the good men gone?"
Yeah. Why didn't you protect them?
Why didn't you protect us? Because you told us not to.
Yeah. And then they get mad about it.
Well, you're supposed to do it anyway. But I thought no meant no.
It's like, we don't want you to ask us out. Why aren't you asking us out? You need to ask us out. I mean, the mood changes every 28 days. Yeah, I went there.
That's where the...
Oh, don't do that. You can tell him what it is. I'm not telling him.
My husband, Mr. Squirrel, brought me this. It is a menstruation crustration. It's a heating pad. I think I've been fairly reasonable today, all things considered. Thank you.
I'm not touching it. Nope. Moving on.
Moving on. We got 5 minutes left.
Any other questions real quick, guys? If you have any questions, last chance to ask them.
Yes, Mr. Stitch. It's no means no when you're ugly, but if you're hot, it means try harder.
Yeah, exactly. Because, that doesn't send a mixed signal.
But no, this is one of my favorite. It brings up one of my favorite points. If Christian Grey had been ugly and poor, it would have been an episode of Criminal Minds. instead of, a best-selling, romance. And that's another thing, is that what is being sold as romance for young girls and just women in general, which is all fantasy written by women, is some of the most horrible stuff. They're like, oh, it's romantic. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not romantic at all. Oh, well, he's paying attention to me. He's stalking you. The word they're looking for is stalking you. He's stalking you. He's not interested in you. He's stalking you. And then these women sell these, they peddle this stuff as romance. And then when bad men, which are not a lot of, most men are good men, but when bad men, they know this and they do these behaviors, and the women ask, where are the red flags? And to your point about, Simpson, women who don't have fathers in their lives, they don't see the red flags because they think it's romantic.
Yeah,
because other women have taught them that it's romantic.
Yep. Now, the worst thing that's happening across society is women are teaching other women that they know better than men how men think and feel. That's why you hear it all the time in my videos. It is a huge issue, and nobody wants to talk about it. But women get it wrong 99.99% of the time. And that includes the good ones like Lindsay, okay? You don't know how we think. You're better, way better at it than probably anybody I know that's female, right?
But I will never assume that I know what a random man thinks. I know what you think pretty well. I know how Curtis thinks pretty well. I know how Mr. Squirrel thinks pretty well.
Generalities,
but in general, but that's also the wonderful thing that the reason I know what a lot of men think is I do this wonderful thing that a lot of women just can't do.
I know where you're going.
I shut my mouth and I listen.
Yeah. It's amazing how that works, doesn't it?
To understand, not respond. And it is to women's detriment that other women are telling them these things, which is why I will continue to fight the fight that women need to be the ones calling out these other women, saying, no, stop it. You're doing it wrong. That's why I talk about when I give relationship advice. I'm like, why are you giving relationship advice? You've been through like 8 boyfriends. And then they always turn around inevitably and say, well, what's your relationship advice? I said, do you really, really, really want a good relationship? Yes. Then stop asking perpetually single people for relationship advice, because they're obviously doing something wrong.
All those dating coaches out there. Not one of them's wearing a ring ever. You ever notice that? Not one of them. Not that married people don't. I mean, I don't wear a ring, so.
No, either.
But anyway, all right. We only got a couple minutes, so we got to wrap things up.
I had fun with this show.
This was fun.
It was.
It was.
It was a great idea, Lindsay.
I had a good idea. Yay! It happens every
Blonde
now and then.
had a good idea, right? So
the sun shines on a dog's ass every now and then.
A broken clock is right twice a day.
I just want to address a comment that Country and Michael made talking about corn and romance books. Even the ones that will have male authors on them are almost always written by a woman. It's women writing those things. It's not men writing them. But they'll put a male name on it, just so you know. And I heard that from a publisher. I have a friend who publishes, and he's like, oh, yeah. And they publish those kind of books. He's like, they're all women. And they'll have sometimes 3 different names, right? Pseudonyms that they write under. Because they crank these books out like crazy. They sell like hotcakes.
Yeah, their version of corn is very read. They like to read.
They read it. They don't watch it.
Yes, I have a bookmark that says, of course I don't watch corn. I read it like a fucking lady.
Yeah. So, all right. We only got a minute left. Really good show. We're here every week from...
Don't forget... DC in November.
Yes, we will. I was going to go there. Yeah, we're on from 4 to 5:30. We'll be announcing all the details on DC shortly. I've reached out to a couple of creators I know that are there. We may do a meet and greet. We're trying to figure that out. We got to get some guests lined up. That's why we don't know the exact schedule yet. Once we have that done, hopefully in the next week or so, we'll announce everything. But the first full week in November, right after, I'll be arriving on election day. I think all 3 of us will be, right? We will be in DC. I will be there till Saturday. I fly out Saturday morning. And I would love to do a meet and greet if we can. We're going to be doing some shows from there. We'll be doing this show from there. And doing a little lobbying too in Congress.
You
Looking
can
forward to
all
that.
come meet me and realize that I am just as crazy in person.
But you're going to have to get through me to get to her. That's all I'm going to say. She is my daughter. Not really, but she is. So, and I'm very protective of my daughters. All right, wrap it up, Linz. We got to go.
All right, guys. Bye. See you next week.
Woo!